Welcome to Easy to Love Yoga with Shanna. Today's edition of Strike a Pose is going to bring a spotlight on caterpillar pose. So caterpillar pose is a beautiful stretch for your spine, your hips, your hamstrings, and your calves. Now, a couple things to keep in mind when you're doing caterpillar pose. If you have a rounded back in this pose, it tends to bring focus to the muscles in the torso and low back, versus having a straight back in this pose, which brings more focus to the legs. So keep that in mind. If you have a sensitive back or you have a back injury, perhaps you would like to keep your back in a more straight position when you move through some of these poses. So starting with a basic caterpillar pose, our legs are extended out front. We're sitting on a blanket just so we can elevate our hips slightly higher than our knees in this position. It just makes it a lot more comfortable than sitting right on your mat. So we're going to slowly allow our back to start rounding, our shoulders to start rounding, bringing our hands forward on our legs and lowering the torso down. Now, if you're very, very flexible, you may be able to completely lower your torso down onto your legs into a full caterpillar pose. But if you're not, there's lots of ways that we can make this pose a little bit more accessible. We can use a set of yoga blocks to help walk our hands forward in this pose. So if we were keeping a straight back in this pose, we could bring our blocks forward on either side of our ankles and just reach forward with that nice straight back, giving all the focus of the stretch into the legs here. Now, a typical caterpillar pose you can hold for 3 to 5 minutes or a little bit longer if you prefer. So this is just one option for caterpillar pose here with a straight back. Now, if you wanted to do a rounded back, perhaps bring those blocks slightly back just to bring a little extension into your arms here and allow your shoulders and your back to round as you come forward. And as you spend time in this pose, you may notice a little release in some of those muscles, and you may be able to walk the hands a little bit further forward as you progress in this pose. So just a couple of ideas there. One of my favorite ways to do caterpillar pose is really a restorative pose. So the difference between doing caterpillar as a yin pose, which is using minimal props to support you in the pose, versus restorative, which uses most props available to help get you into a pose and have you fully supported by the props. So I prefer restorative pose a lot of times when I'm doing caterpillar. So I take a block on either side of my knees, and I like to use a yoga bolster. So this is a really firm cushion, more or less. So if you don't have a yoga bolster, perhaps you have a really firm decorative pillow, or you have a really firm couch cushion that you could use that's the appropriate size. Resting it on the blocks on either side of the knees, we're just going to cross one arm over the other. We're going to allow our back to round and our shoulders to round, and slowly bring our head down to our arms. Now, in this restorative pose, you could stay caterpillar for 5 to 8 minutes if you so desire. Another way you can make this pose a little bit more accessible if you don't prefer having your head down to your arms is to bring your elbows to the edges of your bolster, bring one hand over the other, and just rest your chin on your hands in this pose. So this is perfect if you have a straight back or if you have a rounded back in this pose. Another option is to bring your hands to either side of your head and just have your thumb rest just under your ears and just support your head like this, keeping your eyes closed, taking a few moments just to relax in this pose. This can be done with a rounded back or a straight back. So there's a couple different options that you can use when you use a bolster and a couple of blocks in a caterpillar pose. Another way that you can make caterpillar a little bit more accessible, if you're finding that you're hyperextending your knees, is you can have a pool noodle that you've cut into a couple of pieces, and you can place the pool noodle underneath your knees just to give you a little bit of extra support to help prevent the hyperextension at the knees. And once again, you could use the yoga blocks just to walk your hands forward, either straight back or a rounded back in this pose, with your knees slightly elevated to prevent hyperextension. If you don't have pool noodles available, if you have a small yoga bolster, you could bring that small yoga bolster underneath your knees, giving you that support. Once again, using the yoga blocks and walking the hands forward, finding that comfortable position where you can just allow the back and the shoulders to relax, or if you prefer to do a more straight back pose. Now, if you don't have a narrow yoga bolster, you can always use a rolled up towel or a rolled up blanket. Place that under your knees, once again, preventing them from hyperextending. And once again, you can use the yoga blocks and bring the hands forward. So there's lots of ways to bring that little bit of cushioning under the knees in this pose to make it feel a little bit more comfortable. Another alternative for this pose, if it really bothers you, if you have very tight hamstrings and you're having a hard time coping in this pose, is you can bring your feet flat to the floor. You can use your yoga blocks underneath your legs to support your legs, and you can just hold on behind the knees. Allow the back to round, allow the shoulders to round and come forward into this pose. Or you can leave the blocks under your knees to help support the weight of your legs. And if you have that yoga bolster available, you can bring that bolster in front of the body, holding on either side, allowing the shoulders to round and the back to round, and lowering the forehead down to your bolster. Now, once again, this could be done for a straight back. So having a nice straight back here, coming forward, bringing the bolster to you, and just lowering your chin onto that bolster, keeping your spine nice and straight here, keeping the stress in the legs and not the torso. Lots of options on how to make this pose more comfortable. Another way that you can do a caterpillar pose involves using a yoga strap. So I'm going to come off of my blanket. I'm going to set my other props aside for a moment. And I'm going to lie back and wrap this strap around the sole of my right foot. Lie back, have the strap in both hands, and bring both feet up into that strap. I'm going to flex my feet in the strap, and I'm going to rest my elbows on the ground on either side of me, holding on to the strap, and just enjoying this beautiful caterpillar pose using a yoga strap. So again, you can stay in this pose for 3 to 5 minutes or whatever feels most comfortable for you. Now this pose, being lying on the back, really helps support the back. There's full support there. Your back is nice and flat on the mat. Having your legs in the air. If you've spent a lot of time on your feet, or if you've been flying recently and you notice your legs feel a little tired or a little puffy, this really helps to bring the puffiness down in the legs and relieve the tiredness in your legs. So we can spend a couple minutes here with your legs in the yoga strap, doing a nice caterpillar pose. To come out of this pose, simply take your right foot out of the strap and place it on the floor. Take the strap away with your left hand and allow your left foot to come down to the mat. Now there's one more way that we can modify this pose, and we need to come right up against the wall. So you're going to want to bring your hip right up against the wall, and we're going to slowly rotate the legs and bring the legs up the wall. Now your heels and the backs of your legs and your glutes should be touching the wall. If you find you're not close enough to the wall, just wiggle back and forth until you can bring the backs of your legs and your glutes fully against the wall. You're going to have your heels resting on the wall. Your hands could be lying at the side at a 45-degree angle, or even in a T-shaped position if that feels comfortable to you. Find what works best for you today. And just try to relax here and enjoy this beautiful caterpillar with legs up the wall. Now this particular pose, your back is fully supported by the mat and your legs are fully supported by the wall. So you could stay in this pose for up to 10 minutes if you feel comfortable. So just take a moment in this pose with your legs at the wall and notice the sensations in the body. Now to come out of this pose, we're just going to bring our feet to the wall. Make sure you don't have any props on the side you're going to roll onto. Allow the feet to slide down the wall, roll onto your knees, and then come back into an all-four position. And take your time coming out of this pose. There's no need to do this in a hurry. So always keep yourself safe whenever you practice any yoga pose. So caterpillar, remember that if you have a rounded back, you're bringing a lot of stress and attention to the torso and the low back. And if you have a straight back, you're bringing all the attention into the legs. So choose whether you have a rounded back or a straight back. Know that there's props available that you can use, whether it's blocks, bolsters, blankets, pool noodles, or even a yoga strap or a wall. There's lots of different ways you can modify this pose. And please play with the different poses. Find what pose feels most comfortable to you. And if you have any doubt, please check with your doctor if you have any sort of condition that you're worried about before participating in this pose. So enjoy caterpillar. I hope you take a time and you play with the different props and the different ways that you can do caterpillar and find the one that's most perfect for you. Thank you so much for joining me today and learning a little bit more about caterpillar. Have a beautiful day.